Hey guys and gals, Shane Simmons coming at you again for This Week in Appalachian History, and I can't tell you I'm excited today, and I don't really know why. I think it's just life itself. Maybe, well, life and Red Bull Winter Edition. I think that might have about 75% to do with it, but that's all. The other 25% is all natural. So let's get into This Week in Appalachian History, and first of all I want to thank a couple of donors this week. And one guy here goes back at least 30 years with me, a man by the name of James Jim Peck. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your donation. I appreciate your friendship and support. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well out in the Richmond area. And another gentleman with a very generous donation, Larry Allen. And I thank you so much for that, both of you guys. I very much appreciate it. It helps support what you're seeing today. So thank you. And I'll get on to This Week in Appalachian History, starting with April 5th. A man by the name of Samuel Freeman Miller was born in 1816 in Richmond, Kentucky, and he was nominated by Abraham Lincoln in 1862 to be on the Supreme Court, and he was confirmed in just 30 minutes after he was nominated. Can you imagine that happening today in this world? That would never happen in a million years, but to think somebody gets nominated and confirmed in 30 minutes. But that was a tribute to his popularity and the support that he did have, and of course, having been put in there in the middle of the Civil War, he had a lot of say in the issues and was a big supporter of Lincoln, as you can imagine. So he supported a lot of Lincoln's goals and missions. One thing I will say about Freeman Miller is I don't think his haircut's going to catch on. I don't know. I mean, I'm one to talk, right? I know, I understand that. But, you know, it's a little sweeping forward for me. You might like it. If you want to get that started, I support you. Next, also on April 5th, in 1906, a man was born by the name of Grady Sutton, and he was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And he was an actor, and he appeared as the antagonist to W.C. Fields. So that tells you how far back he goes. In 4 films, and he was also a dance partner for Katharine Hepburn in a movie called Alice Adams. And he was been described by film historians as what they used to call Hollywood sissy, and that was where he was a gay man who portrayed an effeminate character for comedic effect. So they kind of had exaggerated effeminate characteristics, which was pretty typical back in those days. You saw that occasionally. And he had a really lengthy acting career. He started in 1925, and his last role was in 1979. And one of his last roles was as a minister on the TV show Hawaii Five-0, the original Hawaii Five-0 with Jack Lord. And the only reason I even mention that is because so I can do this. Dun, 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 dun. God, I love that. Love it. Best music opening his TV show, probably. It's right up there. I don't think what else would even compete with it. I like the Fall Guy song. That was a good one too, but getting off track. Also happening on April 5th in 2010 is a little more sobering fact, and that is that Upper Big Branch mine disaster that happened back in, like I said, in 2010 at Massey Energy's mine at Mont Coal in Raleigh County, West Virginia. And that was a coal dust explosion that happened at 3:27 p.m. and it ended up killing 29 of 31 miners. And it was the worst explosion since the 1970 mine accident that took place in Hyden, Kentucky. And then, so that was some 40 years later that there was another event of that magnitude. And so the MSHA, the Mine Safety and Health Administration, they checked it out and found that there were several flagrant safety violations that contributed to this accident. And as part of their findings, they prosecuted Massey Energy CEO Don Blankenship, who ended up serving a year in prison for his activities there. And Don Blankenship's a guy that just stays around and keeps headlines. He ran for, what was it, governor of West Virginia unsuccessfully. He also was the man who nicknamed Mitch McConnell Cocaine Mitch. He got that to stick on you, Cocaine Mitch. And he also ran for president in the most recent election. It was kind of strange to see his name on the ballot here. At the time I was voting still in Kingsport, Tennessee, and I saw Don Blankenship's name on there. It's kind of odd. Of course, not nearly as odd as seeing Kanye West, but odd nonetheless. That's sad that Kanye just took him out of the headlines, but I don't know what kind of vote support he got, but it wasn't enough to speak of. Now, moving on to April 6th, a man named Jacob B. Jackson was born in 1881 in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and he went on to become the 6th governor of West Virginia. And he was also a cousin to Stonewall Jackson. So we had Stonewall Jackson, then of course there was Mudwall Jackson, and I'm guessing, I don't know this, but I would have to think we're running out of wall names, so maybe he was Drywall Jackson, who would be very popular right now. Drywall. Maybe he was Whitewall, like Whitewall tires. Anyway, Enough of that. William Branham was also born in 1909 in Burkesville, Kentucky, and he was a minister and a faith healer, and he was very prominent. He claimed to have been visited by an angel on May 7th, 1946, and after that it just really launched his ministry into the stratosphere, and he really gained a lot of popularity, and he was really known to push the post-World War II healing revival that occurred. His life was tragically cut short. In 1965, he was killed by a drunk driver. He was hit by a car, and he lived for a few days afterwards, but he passed away on Christmas Eve of 1965, and at the age of 56, which to me, as a man of 50, that's a young man. But some of his supporters actually believed that he would come back and be resurrected just like Jesus was, and so that actually even lingered well after his death, because he had made some predictions of that the rapture may occur by 1977. So a lot of people still held on thinking, well, maybe he'll be resurrected in 1977 and come back, but after that year came and went without the rapture or a resurrection of Mr. Branham, then his followers kind of dried up. And also on April 6th is the death of Bob Benji. He met his death in 1794, so he was known as Captain Benj, or Benji. He was also known as the Bench. I think it's Benji. I've been corrected on this so many times now I don't even know which one's right or wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Benji. He was a Cherokee leader that terrorized all of Southwest Virginia. He had his hands in a lot of things, and between Bob Benji and Dragging Canoe, who operated a lot in East Tennessee, they really had a lot of the European American settlers living in terror and fear, and that's why a lot of them banded up and built these forts and whatnot. So he worked with Dragging Canoe. He had been in a tribe with the Doublehead, which is another prominent Indian leader back in those days, and he raided Gate City in 1791. He raided Moccasin Gap and Kane's Gap in 1793. And on April 6, 1794, he was ambushed in Wise County and killed. It's what they call Benji's Gap now too, overlooking the I think it's Powell Mountain. And he was actually scalped too, and his scalp was sent to Governor Henry Lee III, who was the governor at the time, and a man by the name Vincent Hobbs Jr. was credited with killing Bob Benji and ending that chapter. Skipping on to April 8th, Jim Lampley was born in 1949 in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and he's a sportscaster. He was most likely you remember him for his work with boxing on HBO, where he served from 1988 till 2018, so a 30-year career in HBO boxing. He also covered the Olympic Games, both winter and summer, at different times starting in 1976 until 2008. And a couple of his more famous boxing matches that he announced was the Julio Cesar Chavez fight, where he stopped Meldrick Taylor with just 2 seconds left in the fight, where Chavez was actually losing on 2 of the 3 cards at the time of the stoppage. And so at the time Chavez was undefeated. It was going to be a huge upset, but he came back to win that fight with the last 2 seconds, and Lampley had a very dramatic announcing of that. And then also, of course, probably most famous for the James Buster Douglas upset of Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson. So he called both of those fights, and many, 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 many more. Moving on to April 9th, a man by the name of Burwell B. Bell III was born in Oak Ridge, Tennessee in 1947, and he is a retired U.S. Army 4-star general. He primarily served during the Persian Gulf War, but he's still alive and well with us in 1970, at the age of 73, I should say, and we wish him a happy birthday if he's out there. Skipping down to April 11th, a man by the name of Alonzo Jake Gaither was born in Dayton, Tennessee, and he was a head football coach. He served at the Florida A&M University, the Rattlers, is their team's name, and he served there for 25 years. He had a record of 204, 36, and 4, and he was known for a quote where he said, "I like my boys to be agile, mobile, and hostile." And that's exactly how I like my subscribers. So that finishes up this week in Appalachian history. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and all the stuff that I say. I will see you again next week, and I might have another Red Bull next week just to keep this energy flowing, because I feel good. And on that note, turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.